ड्रॉप कर दो मेरे लिए।
गाड़ी ड्रॉप करना है? बिल्कुल, क्यों नहीं करेंगे, बिल्कुल करेंगे। This is the car.
वाह,
This is how cars were supposed to look like 10 years ago, and this is how cars are supposed to look like even today. But unfortunately, these cars, these sedans, are succumbing to the peer pressure of SUVs and, more importantly, compact SUVs. But the Czechoslovakian car maker promises to reincarnate the sedans in 2021 in the form of all new Skoda Slavia. So ladies and gentlemen, we are in the best place in the country, Goa, to find an answer to one of the most important questions in the history of Indian automobiles. Can the Slavia offer a rebirth to the sedan space in India? Not just that the Slavia is important for sedans in the country, for the significance of sedans in the country, but Slavia is a very crucial product for Skoda as a brand, because Skoda has a lot of expectations from the Slavia, and we really hope that they get things right this time, especially price, because Skoda has been quite ambitious with price. We know that designs are subjective, but I'll admit this: Skoda makes the best designs in the country. It's not that their designs are flamboyant or flashy. They are clean, crystalline and elegant at the same time, and that's what makes it very special in the days of overdone designs. First glance at this Slavia and you know that this car is crafted to perfection. We have the LED headlamps here, there is DRL here, which goes very nicely with the car. So there is this beautiful grille here. It's not exactly trapezoid or something, and you have this Skoda emblem here, and there are two sharp creases going all the way above, which looks so nice and neat. And then you have the fog lamps here and this chic chrome strip running on top of that fog lamp, you know. These things, there's a chrome strip, there is a saddle here, a plastic saddle. These small things separate Skoda from the rest of the brands. And then you have the ADAMs here, and what's nicer is this bumper, which is very sharp and goes with the crystalline theme of the car. Talking about designs, alloy wheels play a very significant role in designs of the cars, and these alloy wheels, which are finished in chrome and that dark grey garnish, gels really nice, especially with this red hot color. So these are the 16 inches of alloy wheels right now running on Goodyear rubber. But there is something very interesting about this car, that is the ground clearance. Skoda says that the ground clearance of Skoda Slavia can be compared to SUVs with a ground clearance of 179mm. Just for reference, the earlier Scorpio had a ground clearance of 180mm. That's how nice the ground clearance of this car is. And you know what's nicer is, it doesn't look out of proportions. It doesn't blow out of proportion. It doesn't look like, you know, someone has pimped up the car. It's not like that. It's very neat and elegant. And just for reference, I'll show this to you from practical point of view. We have this half-liter Bisleri bottle here, and you still have ample space here. अब इतना मुश्किल से पानी लाए तो पानी पी भी लेते हैं. Yeah, apart from that, you do have this Skoda badging here, which looks nice and elegant, and most importantly, panel gaps are extremely consistent, just like most of the Skoda cars that we have seen. Some might miss the 360-degree camera here because we are coming after the drive of Baleno, and Baleno gets it. Not a big fan of having 360-degree camera mandatory for every single car, but nevertheless, really interesting stuff here. These are the ORVMs with indicators, and the B pillars are blacked out, which make the car really sporty, especially in this avatar. What's also nicer is this color matches with the shark fin antenna here. That's what Skoda is for. And of course you get a sunroof here, which is a kind of norm these days. So you get two engine options in the Slavia. One is this one, the 1-liter engine, and the other one is 1.5-liter engine, which we are going to drive shortly. So talking about the 1-liter engine, this churns out 115 bhp of power and 178 Newton meter of torque. Of course, no hydraulic studs at this price bracket. That's totally fine. But this is the 1-liter engine. How good is it? we'll show that to you during the course of the review. Traditionally, Skodas have known to have really good boot space. I still remember the first gen Octavia having 530 liters of boot space. But this, in spite of its perfect dimensions, bags a massive 521 liters of boot space. Forget bags, forget trolley bags, cabin bags. You can store humans inside this. It's like a 1 BHK flat. You can sleep here, although not recommended. But apart from that, there's something very unusually distinct in this car. That is the placement of subwoofer. I've never seen a subwoofer being placed here. The subwoofer is stored inside this stepney. Boot aside, but I genuinely love the rear design of this Slavia. It's very minimalistic, very interesting, and there's a big Skoda badge with nice spacing, the traditional Skoda way, which goes very well with the car. And there are LED tail lamps, crystalline of course, which add to the clear-cut, elegant design in this car. Apart from that, there's a small chrome strip running beneath that. Apart from that, you do get a couple of parking sensors, which are going to help you in parking. So, the interiors of Slavia, a very important question, because when you talk about localization, what happens is generally there's a tendency that the quality of the products go down. And Skoda has been able to achieve more than 90-95% of localization in this Slavia. So we expected that the quality of the car, the cabin quality might significantly drop. And we asked the same question to them, and they said that no, Indian OEMs, Indian suppliers are equally capable to make some really good OEM parts. As in, the supply chain is strong, the quality is good, and that's reflected here. The quality of this cabin is really nice. It's hard plastics, I'm not denying that, but it does not mean it's cheap in any way. Hard plastics and cheap, no, that's not the case. And although it's hard, it's fine, but I just feel that there are some places, I agree, there are some places which could have been slightly better fit. Like for example, you see that you shake this part shakes, so that's not so Skoda, but that's happening here. And apart from that, you get the center of attraction, the 2-spoke steering wheel, one of the most controversial design changes, and I like it. I'll admit it, I like this. And also these are the volume controls. Not really big fan of this wheel type volume controls. I prefer that Tectic wala, but nevertheless. And these are the control stacks. Feels good, but not the Skoda wala good. I'll agree to that. And apart from that, you have this nice AC vent switch here for the headlamp control and everything. And this is the horn of the car, and this is a disappointment for me. Dedicated buttons for auto start stop, ventilated seats. Ventilated seats make a big deal of difference, especially when you're surviving this hot, harsh, humid climate of Goa. They're helpful. And apart from that, this car is filled out with Type-C chargers, and I think it's a very important and nice observation, because generally we see that people use USB chargers more, and that's not the case here. The car is filled with Type-C chargers. A slight disappointment there. Last but definitely not the least, you do get wireless charging here, which is good. And the seats are nice. The seats are slightly more softer, which means that probably if you're driving this car for 8 to 10 hours, you could, I'm not telling that you will, you could expect some discomfort. Yes, soft seats for a very long time, they're not the best option for your back. So this is a 25cm odd infotainment system, and I am in awe with it for the fact that it's very responsive, and it's extremely easy to use. Mainly because it's very responsive. Just look how fast it moves, and especially when driving and using, it has to be responsive. Firstly, everything is nice, and Skoda knows that the most frequently used thing, like for example brightness and all, you have a dedicated button there for that. Nice. Valet mode is something, for example, if you're giving your car to a valet in restaurant or mall or whatever it is, you can know what they're doing. You can set a speed limit, and you can do a lot of customization to it so that your car is not misused or abused. And apart from that, you have this light options here, instrument cluster, panel lighting. You have something called as profile mode, where you can set your avatars and then have your profile configured. Now, I'll show you something slightly more interesting. Of course, these are all the audio controls, which is there in every car. And talking about the infotainment system, we need to talk about the music system, which will go after this. And I'll show you this thing. So there is something called as mirrors and wipers here. Go there, and you have a button for this, lowering and reverse, which means that you must have seen in some cars where once you slot the reverse gear, the mirrors fold down, okay, so that you have a better perspective, better vision of what's there in the blind spot. you can customize that whether if you want that or not. I mean, this is some next level attention to detail. You can have an option if you want to fold the mirrors when you're locking or not. I think this is very cool. Very cool. Hats off here. And then these are the media settings, apps and notifications, of course. So in a nutshell, and one more thing is you have a dedicated button here to turn off the ESP or turn it on or let it remain on, whatever it is. And then of course Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, the wireless, thumbs up there. You have the instantaneous consumption, the average speed, all the trip details. So that's about it. Lovely infotainment system, full marks. And apart from that, there are some neat bits in the car, like there's a dedicated place to store your idle, which is going to be helpful in Indian environments. When you move inside, you realize that this car is quite spacious. The only slight constraint may be that the transmission tunnel, the floor hump at the rear is present, and it's a bit taller. More importantly, you get rear AC vents. But the disappointment continues at the rear from the front is that you get only USB Type-C charging here. One nice thing is you get dedicated pockets to store your phone like this. This is the first time I'm seeing this in a car, and for some reason I saw that this pocket is there here also in the 1-liter engine, but here it's not there. Talking about the legroom is more than adequate from sedan standards, and the headroom is adequate too. The underthigh support is good. The seats feel slightly soft, and apart from that, everything feels nice and well put. You need to exert some force to close the doors. Skodas and door third go hand in hand, but I will tell you that the door third is not as prominent and it's not as nice, rich or bassy as the ones it was in the older Octavias. You do feel that that department has been slightly diluted. Apart from that, you get rear center armrest with two little cup holders here, which should be good because the armrest is actually nice and wide. The gear shift feels slightly notchy. It's not the slickest of all the shifts that I've seen. It feels slightly notchy. It doesn't feel very notchy as such. The gear shifts are short, so you do not need to put in a lot of effort to actually change the gears. Talking about the 1-liter engine, the biggest pitfall that this car suffers from is that the engine is pretty noisy. The NVH levels aren't the best when you're talking about the 1-liter engine, and that's where I think the cabin insulation could be better. I think it's not the most refined of all you do. It gets evident with time that you're running a 1-liter 3-cylinder engine and not a 4-cylinder engine. I really wish Skoda had done something for that, because this is going to be a big volume seller for them. The Slavia and of course the 1-liter engine, more importantly. And apart from that, the motor has a decent punch, enough for a 1-liter engine. It's not the most fascinating of all, but does the job right. Just that the NVH levels are a pain here, and the mid-range is pretty good, and I think that's where the meat lies. First things first, it's a 150 bhp engine, and you realize that instantly. The power is available on tap every time you need it. It's incredible the way this engine performs, especially on this car. The way the engine and the gearbox communicate with each other is really good. The acceleration is quick, mid-range is very punchy, and even the height range is really good. You won't even realize when you're touching the ton mark. You won't even realize when the speed warns you of 120 km/h. Of course, in safe environments, we urge you to be very cautious when you're doing such speeds. But coming back, the gear shifts are very good. You have paddle shifters to make the experience a whole lot better. So right now we are in the third gear. This is M2 and this is M3. Basically, there is a manual override, which means if you do not change the gear after a certain point, the gearbox is going to do it for you, which is a very good thing, because else you might end up harming the gearbox. You just saw the U-turn. It's that easy to drive the Slavia, and I'm going to slot it back to the drive mode for now, so that the noise is controlled and you can hear the audio better in this video. Talking about the steering feedback, I wish the steering was slightly more heavier. It's good, I'm not denying that at all. But you feel that the weight is lacking. We are doing somewhere around 80, 82 km per hour now, and for that speed, you expect better weight. The steering weighs up with speed, I'm not denying that, but you expect magic because it's the Skodas that have the potential to give that magic for you. So just another last thing that I want to point out is I had an opportunity to drive the manual gearbox with the 1.5 liter engine, and just like I found that the gears were slightly notchy in the 1 liter manual transmission, I found the same thing to be carried out there also. So if it's Slavia, I really recommend that you pick the automatic variant. It's a brilliant gearbox, it's a brilliant engine, both are made for each other. Manual for some reason feels slightly out of the place as an outlier. It's safe to say that no other mid-size sedan comes close to the ride comfort the Slavia offers. Not because the Slavia scores that high in the ride quality metric, but the others fail to do so. It felt incredibly stable at high speeds, especially the 1.5 liter engine. The long travel suspension and the fantastic body control offers a rock steady ride. At low speeds, going over some rough roads, you will appreciate the absorbent nature of suspension as it keeps you comfortable. Body movement is controlled well and the suspension soaks up small potholes with great ease. But just like other Skodas, the Slavia yells back at you when you get ambitious with the gas pedal. That's when a thud makes way to the cabin. The Slavia is the most composed sedan you can drive in India right now, of course within its segment. The straight line stability is great and the car feels extremely steady cruising at triple digit speeds. The light front end ensures that it's easier to attack corners at every given opportunity. There is a bit of body roll, but it's well controlled and it doesn't feel excessive even when you're pushing the car really hard. Slavia doesn't just seem to be a jack of all trades. It also seems to be a master of all the crucial parameters that the Indian consumer is looking for today. So, how is the Skoda Slavia? It's a very interesting proposition actually, and it's confusing as well. I'll tell you why. Interesting because this is a very important car for Skoda as we discussed earlier, and Skoda has tried their best to make this car as near perfect as possible so that it's appealing to many people. They've got many things right in this car, especially the design, the features, the space, the boot space, and when you look at Skoda Slavia as an overall proposition, especially with that helpful 179mm of ground clearance, it ticks all the boxes that you would aspire for in a sedan. But it's not that rosy. That's because there are a couple of constraints. Now those constraints are, so let's take the 1 liter for example. The NVH levels in that car are bad. I'm not even telling that they're average. That's because the noise from the engine is too much and the cabin insulation could have been better. Mind you, that's a petrol and not a diesel. I'm talking about the 1 liter, not the 1.5, which is there currently here, the red color car. And apart from that, there are smaller nitbits like, for example, you do get just USB Type-C charging throughout the car. That's still something that you can ignore it, but yes, the NVH level part is a decent chunk of a problem. So when you're talking about the 1.5 liter engine mated to the DSG gearbox, it's a significant money because it's going to be a premium of 2 to 2.5 lakh rupees, and when you counter the hefty taxes and everything, it's going to cost more than 20 lakh rupees, and that's where the problem lies. The car doesn't really seem that it's over 2 million bucks. Back then, few years ago, you used to get Octavia at that price. But if price really isn't a problem for you, if you don't mind spending those extra couple of lakhs for a quality product, for a premium product, then the Skoda Slavia is the car that you will want to buy in the sedan space. Trust me on this, I loved this car, especially the 1.5 liter engine mated to this beautiful gearbox. Just for one last time, this Slavia is a very important, not just for Skoda in India, but it's the most capable contender to revive, to retrieve the dying and to be extinct sedan space in a country like India. If you guys like the video, do not forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram because that's where most of the action happens every single or every other day. Take care. Bye bye. This is Zahur Hassan signing off.